Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Rubina Shujil from UMT Office of Alumni Relations. UMT has launched a number of graduates who became important trailblazing figures in businesses, education, science, and the humanities. Some have made technological breakthroughs through research and innovation, while others have led multinational companies. Today, we have with us Dr. Ali Kashif Bashir, who is a reader, chief advisor, Manchester University, Visual Intelligence Research Lab, and University of Electronic Science and Technology, China. He's also editor-in-chief IEEE, as we all know that IEEE is the world's largest professional association dedicated to advancing technological innovations and excellence for the benefit of humanity. Dr. Kashif has done BCS from UMT and he graduated in 2003. Dr. Kashif, I welcome you in this interview session.
Thank you, thank you, Ms. Robina. Thank you, UMT, for the wonderful platform that you have given to a lot of alumni like me. And again, thank you for inviting me for this interview.
Okay, Dr. Sif, what was your first project and which people inspired you in your first years of work?
It's difficult to, pick one project because there are a lot of projects we continue working during our subjects, our courses. The one project that I can think of was Chaos CNOS, which within the UMT we pick guys who are good at different areas. For example, I was good at mathematics. There was a guy with us, Usman. He was very good at hardware. Then a guy on good on databases, artificial intelligence, Junaid. He's also a doctor now in Australia. And Mansoor, he was very good at programming. So we were from different batches, different years. So we came together to work on some projects independently. We are thankful to UMT that they let us work in their hardware labs even at night times when the university was closed. So we built a system, an automation system, and we present that system a couple of national platforms. We won second best prize at that time. There used to be Kohota Research Laboratory competition nationwide. We won the second prize there. Then we also participated. There was used to be software competition in Pro Life. I think we won the second or first prize there.
Very nice.
So that's was the one project that I can think of. In terms of inspiration, there are a lot of inspiration. I think in UMT, the biggest inspiration is always a one person always stand out is Dr. Hassan Sohaib Murad. I mean, he is a fatherly figure to all of the alumni, and his attitude, the way he greet people, the regardless of doesn't matter how much stress he has, he never showed that. That was remarkable. That was remarkable. It's extraordinary. I think it doesn't. From that perspective, from hostility, humbleness, he was out of this world.
True
And
indeed.
from teaching perspective, there are, many other names. And also, I would like to give thanks to Dr. Abid Sherwani Saab also, that he has been a really good mentor throughout these years. So whenever we had problems, especially after Dr. Hassan Sohaib Murad, he's always there for the alumni. So these two figures, I would like to, I'm indebted to them.
So, Dr. Saab, during your work years, how has teaching computer science changed?
I think when I was a student, at that time, the number of resources available were not too many. The social media, these tutorials that are available online today, to students, we don't have those facilities. The career options that are available, like for example, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of part-time jobs, selling their skills online, and so they were not there. Now, today, things have completely changed. When we go to the classroom as a teacher, I always ask this question to myself that, okay, what different I'm going to offer to my student? if my student is going to take a course or the same content he's going to study online from, let's say, one of the best professor of best university in the world. So
Hmm.
what different I'm going to offer, what different content or what kind of thing I can offer him. So I always come up with one thing, that my understanding the background of the student, what he is good at, okay,
Hmm.
and then try to enrich that his skills, motivate him in those areas, ask him questions in those areas. So one skill which I think, the overall has changed, and probably all the uh, especially technology teacher, they have to focus on is problem solving, the problem solving ability of the student. I think they can't relearn that online because those problems are probably generic.
Hmm.
Here we can tweak those problems with respect to student background, his expertise, where he's struggling, where he's good at. So we can start working on his strength, and also, I mean, we can emphasize on his strength and also continue working on his weakness. So I think that is the one way a teacher can mentor and can transform students and convert him into a good professional.
Great. So kindly share your own major career achievements.
There are, I mean, I have a lot of journey. I mean, after UMT, I moved to Korea on Korean government scholarship. I did master there. Then I did PhD there. After that I worked on a nuclear project, national for the National Fusion Research Institute in Korea. It's one of the world biggest project with the consortium of 7 countries: Korea, Japan, uh, England, USA, Italy, and France. So there are only 2 atomic reactor. One is in Korea and one is in France. So I used to work on the reactor in Korea.
Hmm.
After that, I moved to Osaka University, Japan. I worked there for 3 years. Then I moved to Denmark, worked there, teach there for 2 years. And in 2019, I moved to, I mean, here in England. And so on in this journey, I have a lot of challenges, a lot of problems, and also a lot of achievements. I think the one achievement which I would say that I have learned throughout this journey is that sticking with the problem. Okay, there are some problems that are to solve, and there are some problems that you have to live with.
Hmm.
Okay, so for example, career is one of the things that you have to live with. Okay, there are some problems. It's not green everywhere. It's not, there is no ideal job. When you come to job perspective, there is no ideal job in the world. It's like you have to make it ideal. You have to understand something. So sticking with the problem, there are some. So if you can build that resiliency in your personality, which I think, I don't say that I'm perfect at it, but I think working with in so many countries with so many employees, I have built that stick with the problem and turn the situation in your favor.
This is very impressive. So, can you please share with us about the artificial intelligence? We are hearing about like different chatbots, Chat GPT. So, do you think in future this AI will take our jobs? Do you think so?
Uh, I think AI is a was supposed is an assistive technology.
Hmm.
Okay, I mean, we can talk about it. Uh, just a couple of weeks ago, I was in a conference, and we were discussing this thing, that there should be, when there is a technology, there should be a policy coming in place. For example,
Right.
we are talking about these days, we are talking about these automated vehicles. Okay,
Hmm.
and there was an article which I was studying a few months back, that an automated vehicle, let's say Tesla, he had hit a pedestrian,
Hmm.
okay, and a lawsuit is supposed to follow, because if you hit somebody, there should be a lawsuit, but against whom? Driver, he's not driving, it's automated car, fully automated car,
Hmm.
working on artificial intelligence, working on assisted technologies. Seller, manufacturer, technology designer. Okay. So these things, the technology, when we are going to adopt any technology fully at the national scale level or at the standardization level, we have to come up with some policies, and those policies are still not in place. When we talk about these technologies, it doesn't mean that technology will not flourish. It will continue flourishing in its own domain, but the policies need to come along here. Okay, if we talk about
Right.
the chat GPT, if we talk about the cryptocurrencies, the policies are way behind. The
Hmm.
countries who are, for example, like Pakistan, they are banning these cryptocurrencies. It means they are stopping a technology to grow. Okay,
Yeah.
so all the countries, all, if we see the world, the countries who come up with the policies as early as possible, they adopt and they get benefit. They got a lot of benefit from the technology. For example, if you talk about, Estonia, small country, when these cryptocurrencies and online these uh, skills that start coming into play, people start selling their skills online. Estonia was one of the country who took, who start offering some these online nationality and some kind of, opening offices, make it very easy for entrepreneurs. And
Hmm.
similarly other countries like USA. So the country, if the country is more flexible on the technology perspective, it was easy for them to get the more benefits and advantages from the technology. If I bring it back to your question that how the technology will replace human jobs, in a way we can say yes, but if we say at a bigger picture, no. In the
Hmm.
bigger picture, the humans will going to survive, and they will be, but they have to be a particular skill oriented. The technology you can design only in one domain. Okay, for example, an artificial intelligence is going to work for which he is, there is no, at the moment, there is no fully trained model. Okay,
Hmm.
artificial model that can 100% learn a lot of things. We call it artificial intelligence because there are a lot of features of artificial intelligence, a lot of stages of the artificial intelligence. Even if we met one technology, if we have met one or two stages, we say it's an artificial intelligent technology. The ultimate goal of the artificial intelligence is going to be achieved, is definitely going to be achieved in a few years. But from the research perspective, we start working on areas like explainable artificial intelligence technology and human centered solutions. Okay, for example, in industry 5.0, we are going to talk about that algorithms and technologies that are going to come into this world. They should consider that, the next discussion is that how a robot and a human are going to co-work with together.
Hmm.
Okay,
Right.
because now we know that we are talking about, in a nutshell, we are talking about a complete robot. Okay, a system being operated fully by robot or a system being operated fully by humans, and we are thinking about, okay, the transformation from human to robot. But there is a transition period, okay, when they both has to come, because we cannot just switch a button and the whole industry is going to be completely switched on the robotics. There should be a phase when the humans and robot has to come together.
Hmm.
Okay, so what roles the humans are going to play and what roles the robotics are going to play. So here the humans, whomever, it doesn't matter which industry they belong to, they have to think that which ways they can survive. Okay, what thing they're doing that can be easily replaced by an algorithm or a technology. For example, checking exams, maybe an algorithm can do better than that. Okay, but assessing a human capabilities, for example, I would like to mention a project here. We are discussing one project with the National Health Service UK. National Health Service UK here is the national health provider, the infrastructure provider by the government.
Hmm.
So here the system works in such a way that every person, with respect to his address, has a dedicated physician attached to him.
Right.
So if you have something, you call the physician. Okay, if you're sick, if you have fever or anything,
Hmm.
even if something severe you have, you call the physician, and the physician will examine you and will send you for further to, let's say, if it's a heart disease, to somebody more specialist. So physician is your first point of contact. And at the moment, the physicians, especially after COVID, I mean, they start receiving a lot of calls, and most of these calls were from over concerned patients. Maybe they don't need anything, maybe
Hmm.
they are just lonely, maybe they are just like over concerned, but they have to give them some slot. Okay, so this becomes a burden. For example, a doctor is working from 9 to 5. Okay, and if he's receiving 60% of the calls or 70% of the calls he's receiving, if they are not, somebody, they should not be having an appointment, but they're receiving. So this is a huge burden on the health infrastructure. So the idea was that we build an interactive system. Okay, interactive system that understand the human. For example, before I call the GP, there is a system. I log in, and the system start asking me something. Okay,
Hmm.
so the system knows my biodata. System knows my health parameters. Okay, and based on that, the system have an understanding. So this is we call about three uh, inputs, data inputs: textual input, voice, and facial recognition. So the
Hmm.
textual inputs can come with these records, my health parameters, my health history, my okay. The second thing is voice. More I interact with the system, the better the system knows me. Okay, the system knows me. There is an artificial intelligence or deep learning models at the back end. They knows how do I sound when I'm healthy, how do I sound when I'm sick, how do
Hmm.
I sound when I'm worried. Okay, and the third parameter, which we are discussing because of the previous issue, is a facial recognition. If the system knows my facial expression, definitely when I'm healthy, or when I'm okay, my facial expression, my response, my smile, and everything will be different. But when I'm not, so based on that, the system decide whether this person need to be contacted with the GP or not. Okay, and if the person, for example, he's over concerned, he need to talk to somebody. So there is a system there. In other words, you can say there is a robot at the back end. The robot decide whether this person need to be referred, or maybe if somebody is feeling lonely, they can talk to a robot. Okay.
Hmm.
And since the robot knows everything, so this is artificial intelligence model. Now the challenge here is that, okay, the challenge here is that the human population is so diversified,
Yeah.
how we can categorize them. For example, there can be a lot of false ratios here, a false positive and false negatives, because my blood pressure level is different in my normal, is different than somebody else normal. My hereditary, okay, is completely different from somebody hereditary.
Hmm.
Maybe my likelihood of getting cancer or heart disease,
Hmm.
I look perfectly healthy, okay,
Hmm.
but my likelihood because of my hereditary is probably more compared to somebody else. So these are the human challenges. Okay, so the artificial intelligence will be way behind, has to go a long way to come to, when they can completely replace the human
True.
being.
True.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you have given a great insights about artificial intelligence. Dr. Kashif, you have published more than 200 research articles. So, how it feels and how you manage your research time?
I think, I mean, it's all about building your legacy. When I was doing research during
Right.
my PhD or my postdoc, I was not so much fond of publishing too many articles.
Hmm.
I was during my PhD, I was more active on social activities or on community building activities. I built few communities in Korea. I contributed to communities in Japan, and also some communities at the worldwide. Because I was working on a human level, people knows me, and most of the people I was working with, they were doing their PhD. So when I became professor by myself,
Hmm.
so then collaboration became a part of my task. And when I start collaborating, I realized that people who are out there, they know me already, and they have very good reputation or image of mine, and they were already there to work with me. So I start working with them, and in the initial phase of my professorship, Even now, I mean, I spend a lot of time. For example, I have students all over the world. Some of my students, when I was in Japan, they were in other part of the world. So, I mean, but I knew each of my student at which stage he is. At the time when I was in, let's say, when I was in Japan, some of my students were in India, in Pakistan, in China, in USA. They sent me an email, and I used to reply them in an hour or two, even at night time. So they start asking me, "So, what time do you sleep?" Okay. And in reality, I mean, I usually used to wake up at three times at night. Okay, because I know that that student is doing his PhD and he's at this stage of his career, and this stage is the most important in his life at the moment. Okay, so my 10 minutes, my 15 minutes can be very useful for him. Okay, and I learned this from my supervisor when I was in Japan. That was the person you asked me this question. So if you had asked me whom has inspired me most in my life, I would have said that my Japanese supervisor. Okay, he was always there to support me. If I sent him an email at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., he would reply me. I was surprised that he's into late 50s, early 60s. How could he manage? And I saw him that coming to office at 8 a.m. in the morning and leaving at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. every day. And he used to work on Saturday and Sunday also. So I was really just, I mean, I know that there is a balance, there is a family. But for me, if I was a PhD student, for me, the most important thing at that time is my thesis, my PhD, where what I am doing it because I'm 25, I'm 30, and I'm going to build my future on top of that. So if I'm skip just because of the one deadline, which is a one day, maybe I will be fall behind 6 months or a year. Okay. And I will curse everybody who's involved in that, even who has a small role there. So I had this, example of that supervisor in front of me. So when I start teaching, this was the question I asked to myself that, Ali, you would have been, I mean, literally when there are some moments in your life and everything flashback. So when I was enter my first classroom, the first lecture, so everything flashback. So their flashback was that I asked this question to myself that, I mean, would I be happy if I were not a professor? Would I be happy if I were, like, let's say I was working as a clerk somewhere or a normal job? So I said, the answer was yes, I might have been happy. But if my student who has the potential to achieve somewhere, and if he could not, and even if I have a small role in that, in his failure, I would not be happy. So that was my motivation. So after that, everybody who started working with me, my research students, so I start giving my time with the same motivation. And then I realized that everything started coming because my student later on they became the professor, and then they became the professor. They have the students, and all this work they do. This are we want to work with you. We want to continue working with you. It's not that we just want to give back something. We don't know how to do it. So when I start saying, then there were a lot of work, a lot of project, a lot of publications, and some of the publications and in on top of that, once you start having something core of yours, the world start to work with you. And alhamdulillah, I have today I have seven honorary professor position around the world, in Canada, in China, in India, Pakistan, in Pakistan NUST, uh, in Middle East, Lebanon, UAE. So I have all these honorary professor position. These universities, they want to continue working with me. They want that I should be affiliated with them in this way or
Right.
that.
And this is all just because you have set a legacy. Very nice.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So, any advice for young scholars?
I would say that dream big.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter, even if you don't know how to achieve it or not. Just big, just dream big. It's kind of an instruction because sometimes human body, human this machine is very, very, very powerful, and sometimes we don't even realize how strong we are, and we need to give a challenge to us. And if we don't give a challenge, we will regret at the later part of our life that why we have not utilized our capabilities. So dream big, and वो तो I mean अल्लाह मियाँ भी तो कहते हैं ना कि मुझसे मांगो जो मांगते हो. तो ये जो ड्रीम है, I mean it's also a question to वो अल्लाह की जात से भी क्वेश्चन है ना कि मुझसे मांगो जो मांगना चाहते हो. तो अपने आप को भी चैलेंज दो, अल्लाह से भी मांगो, and let's see how things will work magically. With that, okay, I would say that keep the moral values. It doesn't matter how big your dream is. Always keep the moral values. Always focus on the people around you. Okay, what impact you are going to create in research or in your job, in your life, you're going on the road, what impact you're going to create on the people around you, what feeling you're leaving behind. And these are very small things, but they pays a very, very big time. All these wonderful people in the world, they have been at the top. I met a few of them. I have not met most of them, but I believe one thing. They have been, they had a wonderful impact on the people around them. So this impact, that will take you much higher.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ali Kashif, and thank you again for joining this session.